I'm going to read you a couple stories. Can you hear? Good? Good enough? Okay. The first story I've written, this was to capture some of my memories of my childhood of the chalet pool that no longer exists. It burned down a number of years ago. And anyway, bye, Mom, I yell as I quickly escape the confines of the cottage. I hear a parting command. Make sure you're home on time. Dressed in shorts, halter top, and pink thongs, and carrying my bathing suit tightly wrapped in a threadbare towel, I flip-flop through the back lanes to my destination, the old chalet pool. Grasping and pulling on its heavy door, I enter my paradise. Quickly, I scan the expansive lobby. In the center is the ticket office and the stairs to an upper balcony, and on either side of the long counters. Behind one counter looms high shelves, displaying boxes of every kind of chocolate bar I could ever imagine. And behind the other counter is the source of my perpetual poverty, the potato chip fryer. I can feel my skin moisten in the high humidity. My flyaway hair succumbs to limpness. My flip-flops suck the moisture from the floor. My nose draws in the heavy, salty air, intermingled with my favorite smell of fries doused in salt and vinegar and served in little brown paper bags. I can hear the din of swimmers in the background. Excitedly, I run up the slippery stairs to the upper wooden balcony that wraps around the building. Below is a huge pool of wavy dark water sprinkled with white swim caps. Above is a web of huge old wooden rafters and a diving board hidden in the uppermost recess of the far wall, used only by the brave or foolhardy show-offs. Hey, I faintly hear over the din of the noise below. I turn to see my friend Tom hanging over the balcony, strategically hovering a penny over his target below, a bobber, or a boober, as he had nicknamed them. The boobers, who were women whose chins slightly stuck out above their large floating breasts, never left the side of the pool. Their fear of drowning equals their grasp on the black pipe that encircles the pool. Going swimming? Yeah, me too. Together we run back down to the ticket office, which has swinging doors on either side like the saloon doors in the cowboy movies. One side is the exit, the other the entrance, where we pay for our swim. And if needed, could purchase nose clips, rent towels, or swimsuits. We couldn't afford the 15 cents for the nose clips, so we made our own, a hairpin with adhesive tape wrapped around the ends. These are desperately needed when play turns to let's dunk so-and-so. See you in a bit, Tom yells as he heads to the east end, which housed the men's changing room, one big open space. Okay, I yell back as I head to the west end, which has hidden behind its wall a maze of tiny wooden cubicles designated for women and children. Each cubicle has a wooden swinging door and just enough space to turn around while standing on its wet wooden plank floor. Speedily, I change into my bathing suit and leave my towel and clothes in the cubicle's wooden bench. There is no lock or key, just the hope that no one takes my stuff. The shower room is next. It is a concrete room with shower heads every few feet. I find one that works and take the mandatory shower amongst women and screaming babies. Sopping wet, I head for the cold pool. It is the size of a huge envelope, and in the corner where a stamp would be is the hot pool, filled with knee-to-knee old people gossiping and glaring at anyone who dares to splash. Slowly, I wade into the ice-cold water filled with tiny brine shrimp. Fresh lake water is piped in every Sunday, so the deeper I go, the colder it is. To heck with this, I think, and leap forward into the water, keeping only my head above. A few quick strokes and onto my back I go. I float like a newly fallen leaf on a pond. I dare to close my eyes, and as the water seeps into my ears, I feel the freedom of complete detachment from the world. The end. So has anybody here ever been to the chalet pool? Okay, oh, two, okay. This is another short story. It's about a little farmhouse, a man, and a fridge. In the beginning, it was a cozy little farmhouse. That was before Luke had his way with it. In those days, Luke had all 10 fingers, a smooth brow, and an agile walk. He used to pride himself in his ability to maintain his cool under all circumstances. He seldom swore and never hurled objects. He lived an idyllic and uncomplicated life. He surrounded himself with the past. It, however, may be more accurate to say that the past surrounded him. The little farmhouse was situated on the original homestead. His grandfather had bought the farm for $10 in 1905, and proof of purchase was prominently displayed among other remains of the past. The kitchen was the coziest room in the house. Originally, it had been built to contain a sink, a wood stove, and table with chairs. The new addition, the fridge, now stood in the room like a necessary but unwelcome guest. Luke was quite oblivious to his guests moving their chairs whenever the fridge door was opened. The yellow linoleum-covered kitchen walls sported a shredding tool which allowed for the preparation of one of life's necessities, sauerkraut. On the ceiling hung a long coil of sticky substances that captured houseflies, which miraculously entered through the sills of the old storm windows. Flies were also captured in spider webs that hung in the corners of the ceiling. It was a friendly and natural environment for both wanted and unwanted guests. Numerous friends and relatives visited, leaving their shoes in the tiny porch to wade over the shoes that had come before. There was always a spot at the kitchen table for another guest. Sitting on mismatched stools and chairs, sipping coffee or whiskey, and discussing the trials and tribulations of everyday life was the norm. The subject of discussions was directly related to the time of year. In spring, it was how soon farmers would be able to get in the wet fields. In summer, the growth of garden vegetables and crops. In fall, when farmers would be able to harvest their crops. And in winter, temperature and the amount of snow that had fallen or not fallen. Food was always in abundance. In the darkest corner of the tiny basement was a cold room with a dirt floor covered with potatoes and carrots from the garden. Hanging from the joists were bags of yellow onions and woven strings of garlic. Only the aware would discern the jug of moonshine hidden in the corner. On the kitchen table, garlic, sausage, cheese, and pig's feet came and went with the fervor of the afternoon discussion. Evenings were always quiet. Guests would sit outside on the wooden steps, swat mosquitoes, and wait for the sun to disappear. When the last of the guests had left, Luke would retire to his tiny bedroom to sleep in a sound surround of night noises. The house creaked as it relaxed for the night. Owls hooted, coyotes howled, and into the early hours of the morning. As the years came and went, Luke thought he did not have sufficient company in the wee hours of the morning. That's when he decided to get married to the neighboring widow. The wedding was simple. Accompanied by a neighboring couple, Luke and his bride-to-be drove to the nearest town and were wedded by the Justice of Peace. Everyone was pleased except his mother, who decreed that a party was in order. 10 months later, guests arrived at the farm to celebrate. The steel shed was converted into a hall with the addition of tables and benches from a nearby church. Food, drink, dance were the order of the evening. Next day, gifts were opened and the marriage was considered official. Having both been bachelors, the couple had duplications of many material things. The appropriate one of each pair was chosen and the other put in storage in the basement. The couple also owned individual things that neither wished to part with. Unfortunately, the space in the cozy little farmhouse did not welcome more. It was full. This dilemma led the couple to make one of the fateful decisions of life, to renovate. It was spring, when the porch was to be torn from the building. It was then that the little farmhouse began to protest. It desperately clung to its porch in a bitter but fruitless battle. The addition walls had been built, but preformed rafters were the wrong pitch. Building stopped. Spring rains began. Open to the elements, the basement flooded. Work became sporadic. Nerves were frayed. Friends and relatives quit visiting. His wife left him. His dog ran away. His goldfish died. Undaunted, Luke decided to resume renovations himself and started to gut his little kitchen. This was when the little farmhouse gathered all its forces. Luke was about to meet his match. Today, you can find in the little farmhouse kitchen, sitting in a wheelchair alongside the fridge, Luke, both necessary but unwelcome guests. The end. Thank you.